every time I hear that, I think I've gotten into the Matrix or something like that.
It does sound like your plane's about to go down. Yeah, it's kind of the altitude kind of voice in a cockpit just saying, pull up, pull up.
There's a great Monty Python sketch about that, and it just opens with them saying, "There's no cause for alarm," into the microphone, and then everybody freaks out.
Yeah, everybody panics. Yeah.
The show is hilarious. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's
Oh
great.
my God. Oh, I'm so glad you like it. That's a relief to hear. It's so few people have seen it. So I'm always curious to see what people think. Yeah.
No, honestly, I absolutely loved it. It's a riot, and really looking forward to seeing the rest of the series. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but they were
Oh,
great.
great. Yeah. Well, that's a good indication of the general vibe of it all. But no, yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. And this must be so surreal for you. I mean, to bring your life to life, if you will. I was wondering what was that like for you to revisit sets and stuff that were built based on your memories?
Well, that was the weird thing. You write the first script, and just writing a script is fairly personal, and writing all the scripts, I've written sketches and books and things. So it's like that's in your own head still. And then the idea of like playing my father and stuff came up, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll do that. That seemed a bit odd. But then when they started researching the house, and the house hasn't been standing since 1996 or something. So I had to sketch it out on the inside, because we take pictures in houses, but we don't. Back then, you took a picture at a special occasion. So there weren't many, there's pictures of birthdays and Christmas and stuff in front of the tree, but there's no picture of the hallway. Right. Or even my bedroom, So you have to sketch some stuff out, and then they use photos as well. But they did such a good job. It was like walking into the house again. And so much of the stuff in the house is from my parents' house that had been in storage in the basement. So like a lot of the dining room furniture, it's stuff that I grew up with and hadn't been around since then. And I'm a bit of a pack rat and sentimental, as you can tell by I wrote a TV show about growing up. But kitchen radio is the one that was in our kitchen that I listened to every morning to see if there's going to be a snow day, So I'm sitting there and I can see my parents' dining room furniture to the left, and over here is the radio. Grew up, and I'm looking down. I'm dressed exactly like my father. And so those moments were very strange, where like you're doing a TV show and you're acting with Malcolm McDowell and you're doing stuff, but every now and then you kind of go, oh, this strange feels very familiar. It's like you're there, and having not been there for a while. Sometimes it was like sleepwalking or something in a moment, and then you'd realize. So it was very strange that way. It was like two worlds phasing in and out of each other. And the first time I was sitting on that set, when they showed it to me, and I was just sitting in my dad's chair, basically, for the first time since the 90s, it was very unsettling and extremely settling all at the same time.
Well, I mean, unsettling, you say that being, like there's that tension between like reality and memory. But of course, you're playing your own father as well in the series. Like, what was that like?
Well, it's so weird because it's you're acting, and when you're acting, you do research, and like young Benjamin, incredible actor. And so he was doing all this research and listening to music from the time, and watching TV shows that I used to watch, and just doing all this research on the character. And then I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this dad, it's like you have all this. What do you think your character would think about that? Well, I wrote it, and also I know because he said it, and I was there. So that was a unique advantage in a way. But also, you start off in your head thinking, your father, and it's a caricature almost. We all make fun of, we all imitate our parents and stuff. And then after a while, you realize you're in the scene, and you do have to motivate yourself, and you're bouncing off other people. And then you kind of get a deeper sense of understanding of who they are as a person, what they're going through, because you write it kind of from your point of view, and then you're acting it from his. So and then you might change a line or go like, oh, hang on, now I'm getting a much better hold on. And it goes from being an imitation or a caricature of your parent to a person you're playing. And it did actually make me feel closer to him as a person.
Yeah, that would be so interesting, because all of a sudden your perspective, you're sort of getting a new perspective while
Yeah.
writing it from your own perspective. That'd be so fascinating.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so much of it it's so funny. You write these things, you realize how much of it is true. Like in the first episode, there's this big car crash, or a moose is hit in front of the house, and
Yes.
dad goes out to report on it, and that happened. That actually happened. And the lines in that, all the lines in that except for one, are from dad's actual news report, and that he did, because it became this, like, story that the other guys would tell, that this moose was knocked down in front of the radio station. Dad ran out with a microphone and put all this drama into the scene. And so it's neat to be standing there kind of reenacting this strange little thing that happened with all these people around and stuff, this moment of family lore. So it was bizarre. And then, like, somebody might ask you, how'd you come up with this? I'm like, it happened. I didn't come up with anything. I know this sounds weird, and a lot of the stuff in the show is actually pared back a bit. There's things that happen where it's like, I better, yeah, that sounds too unbelievable or weird, I better tone it down a little. So it's always funny when you're no, this is too bizarre for a comedy show.
You're toning down reality.
Yeah, which is like, you can't compete with reality. So it's that was a neat thing.
Well, you talk about memory here. Memory is such a strange thing. I was wondering, what are the things you remember most vividly about your experiences as a child growing up?
Oh boy, I mean, I can remember certain moments. I can smell the cigarette smoke in the kitchen. I mean, I remember. I remember vividly the conversation. The sitting around the dinner table or the kitchen table or what have you, and a lot of older people in the house growing up. So the conversation was very interesting to me because there weren't many kids around. So I'd be sitting down there and and hearing these stories about their childhood, which is, you're talking, 1920 something, in St. Or in the case of other people in the house, much earlier, 1910 or something. So it was this fascinating kind of Dickens kind of world they used to talk about, which I thought was so neat. And arguments over, politics, and there's always great humor. I remember that too. It was this kind of sarcastic back and forth kind of thing. You had to top each other, and you had to, it's almost like you're in a juggling act. There are words coming at you so quick, you got to throw something back, and you can't drop the ball. So I remember that, the banter. And it was a neat place to grow up to, because we lived next door to a radio station, and in those days, AM radio people were, superstars. They were in the morning and had such reach, and they all had their own vehicles with the logo on them, and the DJs wore yellow leather jackets, and the news guys wore red business coats. So there's this fascinating world happening, and then it would all come out through the box. So I remember too, a lot of these people would be in the house, and the next minute they're coming out of that little box on the counter, and so that was kind of neat. Yeah, so I thought my life growing up was fairly normal. And then you go to somebody else's house, they have a rec room, and their parents are much younger, and it's like they have like cable, and and they're eating like all these home cooked meals and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I remember that too, that being over somebody else's house, and a realization of, oh, I see. That's very strange. And you go to somebody else's house, you go, oh, everybody is kind of like this. I see. So no one can ever come to my house. So I understand this, so that kind of a thing. But most of all, you remember the good stuff and the bad stuff, but you also, that's that secure feeling of home. And that was a neat thing about, sometimes during the show, you feel a little melancholy, you miss the people, and that recreation of my parents' house at times could feel a bit like a zombie or a reanimated corpse or something of a house, because and you'd miss all the people, and you'd have these memories. But then I'd hear young Benjamin laughing, talking to Malcolm or what have you, and the hustle and bustle, and then you realize it's being filled now with a whole other family, and this wonderful new memories. So yeah, so I'm kind of having layers of memories on top of memories with my real family, and then my new TV family.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say too, I kind of related to the stories, because as he's listening to to old Sinatra and that, I'm thinking about my own childhood, and I was listening to Victor Borg and
Oh yeah,
black and white Blondie movies from the 40s, because my parents
yeah,
used to love watching those things. And I was like, yeah, and my friends were like, what are you talking about?
yeah, exactly.
We understood.
Yeah.
And also shout out to the raccoons reference in that.
Like, love the raccoons growing up. I mean, that was, you know, it was a that was the thing about TV then, is like there was only so much on. So it's
Sure.
like, oh well, this I am going to have to watch this. This is animated in the evening, and it was great, and it was incredible CanCon. And when he's flipping through the TV, there's a little slice of a TV interview. I didn't realize how quick it was, but that is Anne Murray on the Joan Rivers show
Oh,
going by before we get to Don Rickles on the Tonight Show. So try to jam in as much, and of course a little NFB Hinterland's Who's Who. So that's the fun, having such a love of all this stuff, being able to put in the great music of Rush and Dean Martin and different stuff, and then to stick in a bit of the Tonight Show and a bit of the Raccoons as well, and the Hinterland's Who's Who, that kind of stuff. So if you get it, you get it, and you'll kind of go, oh, I remember that. There's a bit of fun to do.
for sure. I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I mean, and I should say this too. I love this hour. Just
Oh, thank you very
great.
much.
It's so wonderful. Um, Canadians seem to breed funny. I don't mean we breed funny. I mean, maybe that's part of the issue. But I mean, we seem to breed funny people. I was wondering, what is it about this cultural climate? And I mean, of course, from the Maritimes to Vancouver, everybody's different, but it just seems like we've got that unique voice.
I think comedy is the world of the outsider. I think it's very rarely that the handsome hockey player is hilarious. I mean, sometimes you get a Ryan Reynolds or somebody who's quite handsome, but and funny. But you get and I think Canada is in this a little bit of the outside, and that we're sleeping with the elephant. We've got that big America with the fireworks and the boom and the bang and the what have you. And then we also would have some of that British influence, as well. So of your more like, we knew kind of Python, and our comedy was always sketch comedy more so, with SCTV and Codco and all these different things. We had Kids in the Hall. We have great stand-ups, but it was that kind of a more of a UK kind of a feel to it. And looking over the fence and going, check out these guys over here, So, but we also got them. So we have this kind of it's almost like when a really cold current is coming down from the North Pole, and the hot water stream is coming up, and it kind of gets this nice perfect temperature in the middle. And it's like that. What we have is this great observational stuff, but also I think generally our humor, I find, it can be nicer and uplifting because of who we are as a people as well. But I think comedy comes from the sidelines, kind of laughing at what's going on over there. And I think Canada is this kind of this wonderful country that is never too loud, that is not generally the one starting the war. We'll go, okay, we'll go help this guy. He started a war. But we're like, it's like, I will give you a hand. Where are you going? Iraq? No, actually, we're gonna stick here for this one. You go ahead. We'll be back for the next one, though. And I think that's a great place to be for comedy.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. Going back to the show, I have to ask too. Now you've sort of revisited your life here. Well, not sort of. You have. What would you actually say to your younger self if you had the chance? I guess you kind of do
with Benjamin. Yeah. I guess if I had to say to my younger self, I would be like, just, and to anybody who's younger, I would say, just keep doing what you're doing. Be you. Like, don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to fit in. Just follow your path, and you will find the right people for you eventually. Like there's their school is weird because there's a bunch of people born at the same time who live close to each other, sort of, are jammed together. And that's not the end of the world. That's that's just a starting point. And just keep being you and be true to yourself. And nobody's weird, nobody's wrong, nobody's a geek, or nobody's cool. It's just, we're all on our own path. Stick to your path and be true to yourself, because in the end, that's that's who you have to That's who's there when you go to bed at night. And do not be afraid to take that chance, because so what if you take a chance on the thing you want to do or what have you, it doesn't work out, well, at least you know. But I think wondering what if is a thing that never goes away. And I would, and you know, for me and everyone I know who's been able to do what they love for a living, you know, whether it's, I don't know, riding horses or acting or accounting, whatever it is, find a thing that you want to do, that you enjoy doing, that means something to you, and do it. And you will add years to your life. So I would just say, if I was going to talk to myself back in 1986, I'd be like, you'll be fine. It's all right. Keep doing it, man. I know it's going to be rough. High school's not going to be fun. Dances are not going to be fun. You get through that, you'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I have to ask, has your family, have they seen the series? Have they reacted?
Yeah, well, my brother is in the show, of course. He's portrayed in the show. My parents are no longer with us, but my brother has seen the first episode, and he was kind of like, "What are you doing this for?" When I wrote the book, you know, he's kind of like, "Oh, for God's sakes, why are you doing that?" And then he really loved the book, and he was wonderful and very supportive. And then with this too, it's like, "What? You got a guy playing me on TV? Oh, come on. Can you just do something normal?" And then, you know, his brothers are, but he loves it. He's very happy with it, I believe, very proud. And he became good friends with the young man Colton Gobo, who plays him. And he hung out with them and spent some time with them. And he came to set and stuff like that. So seeing him being there, talking to the guy who's playing him, was fascinating. And it was just so nice to be able, it was great, you know, it was great, was to be able to take Mike on the set of our house, you know, and walk through. And it's neat to see what this has become after all those years. So Mike's a kind of like a, you know, a strong sort of fella, you know, but a big softy on the inside. So watching him not trying to show me that he was getting misty eyes was awesome as a brother. You know, what's the matter, Mike? Nothing. Oh, are you getting sad? No, nothing. You missed your mom. Shut up. You know, so it was great to do that as brothers. Yeah. No, he's great.
Well, I mean, he would have been having the same experience, right? The stepping out.
Oh, 100%, you know. And Mike actually is a radio program director and Morning Man for K-Rock. And he works at the same station and is, you know, program director for the same station that my dad worked at, which is the station VOCM in the show. So that's wild, you know, so he's still there. And then that station dad worked at, VOCM, part of the Stingray network now, had to go to them and go like, look, I'd really like to use the actual name and all this stuff, because people are going to know what it is from Newfoundland and Labrador. I just feel stupid changing the name. And so they actually came on board. That's wild. Yeah. So which is very strange, you know, that they would do that. They're like, yeah, sure. And Mike was a part of helping get to them and explain it to them all. So that's lovely. So in a world, he's the modern version of what happened back then. So it's just this wonderful continuation that is really neat to be a part of.
It's so exciting. It's so, and Mark, thanks so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it. The show is a delight.
Thank you so much. And thanks for doing this. I mean, thanks for helping me get the word out. I'm so glad you liked it. I hope you like the rest of it. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. All right. Great. Have a great day. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
See you now.